Chodesh Tov. Boker Tov. Welcome to our viewers on Torah Anytime. Mitzvah Hashem, this month, and really will bring with it real simcha, all-inclusive simcha, a simcha that we wait for 2,000 years. In Mitzvah Hashem. I want to dedicate this shir for the Atzlacha of Ben Zion Ben Dosa, him and his family. Refuah Shleima to Ruchama Katon Bat Leah. She should have a Mitzvah Hashem. A Refuah Shleima Bekorov. We have a shir today with a bunch of interesting stuff. Questions and answers that we're zoichet to ask Maran Reb Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal. Some riddles, some interesting stories. Let's start. The Parsha starts with an Eved Ivri. Hisikne Eved Ivri. Those activities that one is allowed to do on Shabbos. Are you allowed to tell your slave, go do that for me? The activity itself is permissible. But the Torah says, Leman Yanuach. Your slave is supposed to rest on Shabbos. Resting on Shabbos perhaps also means resting from you, the master. Does the master have the right to tell his slave what to do on Shabbos? He has to listen to him? Or no? What do you say, Rabbi Yisai?
Is it forbidden for you?
The activity is permissible. Do me a favor, give me that sefer. Don't. That's a permissible action on Monday, on Tuesday, and on Shabbos. When I say this to my slave on Shabbos, he has to listen to me. But the Torah commanded him, Leman Yanuach, he should rest. Resting means resting from only activities which are not permissible on Shabbos, or it also means resting from your master. You don't have to listen to him. No what? What do you mean? He has to listen. Not can. I want to know if he has to. He has to. You're thinking like Reb Chaim Kanievsky. That's what Reb Chaim Kanievsky told me. I didn't see anybody speaking about this. Reb Chaim Kanievsky told me yes. He has to listen to his master. Another interesting question. Right after that, the Pasuk says that if one strikes his friend, and now he can't work, so his friend has to pay him all kinds of compensations, sheves, busha, tzar. One can't work for a week, so his friend has to pay him for the fact that he made him not be able to work. What if a person broke his friend's arm, and now he has a cast? The cast is supposed to be there for 7 days. So he has to pay them for 7 days that he couldn't work. However, the 7th day is on Shabbos. Or the 7th day is on Tuesday, but he goes to the clinic and the doctor is not there. The doctor is on vacation. He's coming back tomorrow. So Lemaise, even though it can heal in 7 days, his friend can't work as a result of what he did for 8 days. But on the 8th day, it's just a grama. It's indirect. The direct is what he did to him. He broke his arm. But the 8th day, just because the doctor is not here, but he can't take it off without the doctor. He needs the doctor, so he has to wait another day. Does he have to pay him for 7 days? That in theory, that's what he damaged. Or, including the indirect damage, the 8th day. No, you started right. You want to lose your points? So you want to... What are you saying? Doesn't have to pay him. You just lost your points. Again, I didn't see anybody speaking about this. I looked all over. I came up with my own svara, but they're not worth too much. So I asked Reb Chaim. Reb Chaim told me it makes sense. He also didn't have a source. Makes sense to say that he gets the extra day as well. So now you're even. It's okay, you're even. Maybe we'll have more chances later.
Why can't you let me sound here about when it's a field and if the field becomes flooded? You know, it's his muscle. So it's his muscle. So it's the muscle of the person that caused the nezek that he's got to pay for an extra day.
We have a rule. Kol hamoitzi mechaveiro. You want to take out money from somebody else's pocket? Alav haraya. Burden of proof is on you. I'm not sure that's strong enough of a source, because here the Torah decided there are 5 different things that one has to pay. One of them is called shevet. Nobody understands shevet means the time that he can't work. To add another day, lichoyra would need a source.
When you say that, when he broke his arm, he has to pay until he's go back to work. And if he cannot go back to work because the hospital is closed,
but when the doctor says it's exactly 7 days, that's the damage, and after 7 days he really is fine. He can go. But indirectly, grama, what can he do? The doctor's not in the clinic. He can't help him. Abba Yisai, a new question. We welcome Rabbi Weinberg, coming all the way from Brooklyn, New York, just to hear the shir. Going right back to New York right after this, right now. You're not going to make it on time. You have to stay here for Shabbos. And Rabbi Weinberg from Yerushalayim. Where is he? Bruchim Aboim. There's a tzaddik who wants to donate a kidney. Tzaddik. It really is one of the greatest forms of chesed. Not an obligation, but it's the greatest mitzvah, one who can do it. But now he comes with a question. He passed all the tests. He's fitting for the job. Everything is great. He just wants to know, should he donate the right kidney or the left? Doesn't make a difference. What's the difference? A kidney is a kidney. Or maybe not. What should he donate? The right kidney or the left? Does it make a difference? He can't donate both, so it's got to be one. Right or left, or toss a coin.
Usually the right.
Usually the right. And why is that?
The right has more.
More chashivas.
Yeah.
So keep it to yourself.
Argument.
If it has more chashivas, keep it to yourself. Chayecha koidmin.
You're giving it as a
Chayecha koidmin. You have a raya?
chesed is the kidney.
If you go chesed, go all out. That's what you're saying.
You're not going to get both.
Can't give both.
You only give
Anyone has a different raya? Interesting. How about you say? Which is the weaker one? They're both equal. Doctor says both are perfect. Perfect. Up to you. A lottery. Toss a coin. If it was so simple, mistama, I wouldn't ask. Mistama. Looking for a source, How about you say? Gemore broches. Samech Aleph. The Gemore says, Tanu Rabbonon. Shtei klayos yesh ba'adam. One has two kidneys. Achas yoatzto letoiva. Kidneys are one's advisors. So the Gemara says. One advises him, is a good advisor. And the other, ve'achas yoatzto lera. And the other is a bad advisor. Says the Gemara, but I don't know who's who. Who's the good advisor? Mistaber, says the Gemara. It makes sense to say that the right one is the good advisor. Why? Shneimar. Lev chacham liminoi velev ksil l'smoiloi. Says the Maharsha over there, but that's talking about the heart. Yeah, says the Maharsha, but the heart is not an advisor. The heart gets its ideas from the advisors, who are the kidneys. So it makes sense to say lev chacham limino. That refers to the advisor on the right side. That's the right kidney. The Maharsha also says, with that we understand why the Gemara plugged it there in Bachos Samech Aleph. And that refers to Kriyas Shema, Vaya levavecha, al levavecha, levavecha. What it should really say? Al libcha. What's levavecha? You have two hearts. So Gemara says, serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with both hearts. But Gemara says, you don't have two hearts. You only have one. Says the Maharsha, this refers to the two advisors. Make sure that they both working for that one heart and saying the right thing. So if the right kidney is the good advisor, lichoira, you should keep the right kidney for yourself. You want to give away your good advisor and remain with the bad one? Lichoira, based on that, if all else is equal, and they're both, the doctor says you can give which one that you want. Lichoira, we would have to give the left one. The Chida asks, many wonder, what does that mean? That the kidneys are the advisors to the heart? And the Chida says, and he says, Chachmei hanituach, that's what he's calling the surgeons. They say that they're very thin blood vessels that connect the kidneys to the heart and then to the brain. So everything is intertwined, everything is connected, and your kidneys are your advisors. Since we're on the topic of medicine and healing, v'rapo yerape, he shall surely heal. That's what the Torah says. And lichoira, it's a double language. Why do you have to say v'rapo yerape? Can't you just say one word and end it? So there's many interpretations on it. The Moshav Zekenim ala Torah, Moshav Zekenim is Bale HaToisvis, carries a lot of weight. And they say, normally when one goes to the doctor and the doctor wasn't successful or he didn't like what he said, what does he do? He goes to a second opinion. Says the Das Zekenim, if you went to the doctor and it wasn't successful, don't you understand it's a sign from Ribono Shel Olam, he doesn't want doctors to help you, so maybe you would think it's an issue to go to the second doctor. Because Baruch Hu wanted you to be healed, he only needs one doctor. He doesn't need you to go to 15 different doctors. So Verapo, the first one, is the first doctor. You went and it wasn't successful. The Torah gives you permission, Yerape, the second word, to tell you can still go for that second opinion and go from doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does want you to do the Ishtadlus and Amrit Hashem to be healed. Reb Chaim Oizer, so that it comes out, that's the second doctor's permission to heal. Otherwise, the second doctor should say, you were already by a doctor before? Sorry, I can't touch you. But Reb Chaim Oizer said exactly the opposite. Sometimes you go to a doctor, and he damages you more than he actually helps you. So sometimes the first doctor, not the second, there is no second doctor. The first doctor has to go and fix what he himself wrecked the first time around. Verapo, that's the first time around. Yerape, what he himself damaged, now he has to go back and fix what he did. The Shach and the Torah, who's Shach? Sifsei Kohen, from the disciples of the Arizal about 450 years ago, from the time of Tzfat, Reb Mordechai Kohen, and he says, sometimes there's only one body part that's infected, you feel it, it's painful, but lemaise, the whole body suffers. So verapo yerape, you should surely heal both. Don't just address that body part, try to address the entire body. The tzvi branches, that's what we're going to translate into English, because it's called Anfei Tzvi, that's the name of the Sefer. And he says, why does a person become sick? Because of his sins. There's a spiritual reason that caused the manifestation of the physical ailment. So fix that spiritual problem, and mimele, you're going to be healed. That's why double language. Verapo yerape. Fix the spiritual one, and you'll enjoy a physical healing. Perhaps in a different way.
That could only apply to Yaakov Avinu, could it? Because as I'll say, he actually requested to become sick.
First of all, he didn't request to be sick. He asked, why is there no sickness in the world? So Kodesh Baruch Hu said, oh yeah, it's a great idea. We're going to start with you. He didn't specifically ask for it. But, Baruch Hashem, this pasuk is written many years after Yaakov Avinu, so we don't have a problem. Maybe, verapo yerape, why double language? The doctor tries to heal. Verapo. And you have to go and do ishtadlus. So you go to the doctor, and you actually really think, doctor's going to help me. It says to you, no. Yerape, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one who heals. And you have to go to the doctor as a means of ishtadlus, but not chalila to think that the doctor is the one who actually is in charge of things. It's only HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Maybe, refuas haguf and refuas hanefesh. There's two types of medicine, two types of healings that one requires. Verapo yerape, refuas haguf and refuas hanefesh. Sometimes, after one takes medicine, since the body works in synergy, so the whole body is affected. It affects, in a good way, certain body parts, or that part that has the problem, but it can negatively affect other parts in the body. And therefore, verapo yerape. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to heal both that body part which was damaged and those other parts in the body that were affected as a result of the medicine you took to heal that body part. Also, there's a Gemara in Chulin, Daf Tesvav Amud Beis, that says, Regilusi, it's normal that after a person is healed, later on he goes back to the same sickness. So therefore, verapo yerape, that there should be a refuah shelema, and the person should not need again to go to the doctor. And bichlal, some medicines are very, very good for what they address, but they're terrible for other things. Terrible, much terrible. And therefore, the refuah shelema, rapo yerape, it should both fix both things in Mitzvah Hashem.
Sometimes doctors cannot figure out it's terminal, and yet when you go back, the infection is gone.
So Gemara Meforeshes, Avodah Zorah Daf Nun Hey Amud Aleph, the Gemara says, I'm quoting your Gemara, Yisurim, Besha Shemeshagrim Oisam Al Adam, afflictions, at the time that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends them to the person, he makes them take a shvuah. He makes the virus take a shvuah. That you will leave the body of that person at a specific date, through specific means, specific medicines, through a specific person. That means the doctor. So sometimes a person goes to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 doctors. Wow, that doctor? Shh, no one like it. It's the 5th doctor. He's unbelievable. It's not true. It's the virus that took the shvuah before it was sent, that it's going to go through, it's going to go out from your body through that person on that specific day.
Is it the doctor or the patient, the person who's making the shvuah to Hashem?
Not the patient, the virus. Yisurim besha shemeshagrim oisam al adam. The affliction. At the time that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends him to the person, he makes them, the Yisurim, the afflictions, take a shvuah to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Leave that person's body. Avodah Zorah Nun Hey Amud Aleph. The Torah says, Shora Niskal. There's a show that gored person, killed him. We are going to execute the show. Shora Niskal. Can you eat that show? Nope. Why not? You already got executed. The punishment was carried. It's a subhano. I'm asking why. Why can't you eat it? No shrita? There's a Gemara in Yuma, Chiddush. I could have asked it in the way of a riddle. How is it possible that one can eat a behema without shchita? Not a ben pekua. There's a Gemara, not a ben pekua. There's a Gemara in Yuma that says, Yom Kippur, you take the two seirim. One goes la'azazel and one goes Beis Mikdash to be shechted. The Gemara discusses that one goes to Azazel, and the language of the Gemara is, when you throw it down, you push it off the cliff, zohi shchita soy. That's considered shchita. So lichoira, technically speaking, you have a kosher behema that as if it was shechted, even though it wasn't shechted. So you can say the same thing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu could have said about Shor HaNiskal, once you push it off, that is it's shchita. I'm asking, why does the HaKadosh Baruch Hu care that I'm not going to eat it? The Chassam Sofer says an amazing thing. Samita keneged mita. This bull took a life of a Yid. If he's going to be eaten, he's going to become a part of a Yid. That's just not right. He took a life of a person, now he's going to become one of that people. From Klal Yisrael, Chas v'Sholem, took a life of a Yid. And therefore, mita keneged mita, he cannot have that schus to elevate itself to become a part of a Jewish person. I think maybe in a different way. The Ramban in Parashat Shemini, in Vayikro, says, why is it that the Torah said this and this and this animal, stay away? These are kosher. What's the difference between them? The Ramban says, those animals which are not kosher are predators. They are cruel. And when you eat something which has cruelty, that midah attaches with you. It changes your DNA. Mamish, it changes the person. And therefore could be that that's the reason HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, where's the Shor HaNiskal? Why do we have to give him skila? Because he killed someone. He displayed cruelty. I don't want my people to have this midah of cruelty, and therefore, stay away.
But also fish, kosher fish, we eat other fish.
The Ramban is talking about the birds, and he's talking about the animals. He's not talking about the fish. The animals display cruelty, the predators, stay away from them. This show is that behema that displayed cruelty. So even though technically speaking it's a kosher animal right now, stay away.
What about fish?
That's what he asked. Not shaykh to this equation. Not shaykh to this equation.
But some fish change. As they grow up, they shake off their scales.
As long as it has fin scales or it has, it's kosher. But we're not talking about the midos of fish, we're talking about the midos of birds and animals. The passage says, Kol almana ve'yasom lo yiseh anun. Don't afflict the widow or the orphan. It's dangerous. It can be dangerous business to do that. Gitin Lamedei Amud Aleph, Rabbi Bar Ravuna almost lost his life because he got this almana upset. And he was right, didn't do anything wrong, but she was upset. Don't get an almana upset. It's risky business. You know, Birkas Hailanos, in 2 months from now, time of Nisan, we go outside, we say a bracha for the tree that's starting to bloom. There's a Hidul mitzvah to say this bracha when you see 2 trees. You can still say it on one, but there's a Hidul, beautification of this bracha to say it when you see 2 trees. Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach walked for a long time, every single year to the same house, and he said a bracha over a tree. And they told him, Rebbe, you're walking so much. There's a place that has 2 trees much closer to your house. What are you doing? Why do you prefer to go to a place where there's only 1 tree where you can have 2 trees, which is a Hidul mitzvah, and you're walking so long? He says, I have a different Hidul mitzvah. I said to him, what Hidul mitzvah? Is it a nicer looking tree? He says, no. This tree belongs to an almana. It's in her yard. And I've been doing it for years. And if she's going to see that I prefer something else, she's going to break her heart. And that's my Hidul mitzvah. That's a beautiful Hidul mitzvah. So we cannot upset the almana or the orphan. Why? Why is it so terrible, more so than other people? So the Mechilta in Sefer HaChinuch in Mitzvah Samechei explain. Normally when you upset a woman who's married, where does she go? She runs to her husband. Look what he did to me. When you upset an orphan, when you upset a kid who has a father, what does he do? He runs to his father. But these people, says Sefer HaChinuch, Chushei koyach, that's his language. They're weaklings. They don't have any koyach. They don't have whom to run to. They're on their own. They don't have any support. And therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, they don't have anybody supporting them. I will be their support. So you're starting up with an almana or a yasom. In essence, you're starting up with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's why it's so risky.
Why is the divorced lady excluded from that list? She should be in the same situation.
Say it again, who's what?
The divorced lady, the Risha.
We're getting there. We're getting there in 1 second.
A married widow.
The Malbim, in his commentary on the Mechilta, brings the words of the Mechilta, and he says, Lemaisa, there's a machlokes. The machlokes Rabbi Shmuel says, when the Torah says almana and ayasom, that's just an example. It's all those poor Nebuch people who don't have somebody helping them. Rabbi Akiva says no. The Torah says almana, it means almana. The Torah says yasom, it means ayasom. According to the opinion, the first opinion, Rabbi Shmuel, that it includes everybody who is in the same position like the orphan and the widow. What about a grusha? What about a lady who's divorced? Is she in fact included in this because she also doesn't have whom to rely on or not? I asked this to Reb Chaim Kanievsky. Reb Chaim says to me, Ani choshev shelo. I don't think so. Reb Nevin Tzal said the same thing. He says the pasuk is talking about an almana. The pasuk, obviously you can't cause anyone in Klal Yisrael tzar. We're just talking about two for the price of one. You cause the person tzar, and he's also an almana or yasom, you have two for the price of one. When you do that to a lady who's divorced, did you get two for the price of one, or do you only have one negative commandment in your basket? Fine. So Reb Nevin Tzal tells me, I think that the almana is in a much worse position than the grusha. She's suffering much more than a person with a lady who's divorced. And therefore, he adds to me something else. He says, but you see from this, the shorish of the mitzvah, what's the essence of this mitzvah? These people don't have whom to rely on. So don't cause them any tzar. What an insight. He says to me, if that's the case, a husband who upsets his wife, she is also like an almana. She doesn't have whom to go to. She doesn't have whom to rely on. Mimela, you should be extremely, extremely careful to honor your wife, because otherwise it's as if a live almana. What an insight. It's a beautiful thought. I found a source to what he's saying from the Keilas Yankiv. Mamish, words for words. Listen to Keilas Yankiv. He says, Mishalta ha'ikarit shel ha'isha, the main wish of a wife is that her husband should treat her, have any yachas to her, anything to do with her. Look at her. If she thinks, if she thinks, my husband doesn't care about me, he says it's almost a pikuach nefesh for her. She is in great pain and sadness as if she was an almana. It's mamish what Reb Nevin Tzal said. I have another source I found. Etz Yosef. And the Medrash and Hus Rabbah, in his commentary, the Etz Yosef says, if the almana sits without any connection with her husband, if the wife sits without any connection with her, she's like an almana, from her husband, even if she has all the gold and assets and all the other pleasures of the world, she is not happy, and it's all as if it's not worth anything for her as long as her husband doesn't treat her with respect.
And a divorcee, maybe she's better off without him because he mistreating her terribly.
I was mechaven to what you're saying. Next line. Lichoira, there's the main difference is between almana and grusha is that the almana lost her husband. She didn't do anything about it. The grusha, first of all, maybe she said, I want to be divorced. Or in her behavior, maybe she caused it. So lichoira, an almana is much worse off. Also, we don't see that the Torah said, what about a single lady, but she's old, and her parents are very old, they can't help her anymore. Or a married woman, but her husband is sick. Her husband traveled, so she also doesn't have whom to rely on when somebody does something to her. But what's the difference? As long as the Torah only said almana and a yasom, that's where it ends. But, now a new shayla. What if the wife killed her husband? She's an almana. Shkoyach, you did it for yourself, you said. A kid goes to his father and he shoots him. Lo aleinu velo aleichem. He's a yasom. Be careful, don't cause him shkoyach. You did it to yourself. How does that work? What do you say, Rabbi Yisrael? You don't like it.
Temporary insanity. Temporary insanity.
So they checked and he's fine. He's 100%. Should we, is he included in this pasuk or not?
Obviously not, because it's a death penalty, isn't it? It's a death penalty.
I went to Reb Chaim with a shayla. Before I said Reb Chaim's answer. Lichoira, maybe we should bring a raya from kibudav. Kibudav. Is there anyone who's exempt from kibudav? A ger doesn't have a father.
No, if the father
If you don't have a father, the mitzvah doesn't start. One who has a father's right next to him, says, I don't have to respect you. He's saying a father is a rasha. You know who that is? Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu doesn't have to honor his father. What about Chizkiah? Chizkiah the king. Chizkiah. What did he do? Psachim nun vav amud aleph. He dragged the bones of his father, the wicked Achaz, over the whole town. Why? So he should have bizayon and he should atone for his sins. Who gave him permission to do that? It's one thing not to respect a father, but you can disgrace and cause sorrow to a father even if he's a rasha. So who gave him permission to do that?
But that was a toilet. You didn't do for
Toiles, but who says it has to be through you? You somebody else. How can you do that? You can cause a rasha father tsar, even though you don't have to pursue a connection with him, a relationship, and honor him. You still can cause him tsar. There's a pasuk in the Torah called Kibudav. There's another pasuk in Parshas Kisavo. Aur, cursed, makle aviv, one who disgraces his father. So give him permission. The Mefarshim say Avraham Avinu is exempt of the mitzvah of Kibudav because there are three partners in creation of man. They are his father, his mother, and the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Nida Daf Lamed Aleph. Terach, in essence, gave up his part when he gave him over to Nimrod to put him in the furnace. So when you give up your part, what is exempt from Kibudav? What happened with Chizkiah? How come Chizkiah was allowed to do this? The Gemara in Sanhedrin says that Achaz the wicked gave over his son Chizkiah to the Moilech, Avodah Zarah. What did they do there? They transferred him over fire and he basically is supposed to die. So why didn't he die? Because his mother, Chizkiah, Achaz's wife, smeared his body with blood from the fish called salamandra. And that's a protective shield. Fire can't touch you. We don't know what salamandra is today. I think, maybe you guys do. But if you do, if you smear it on your body, you're protected from fire. So he gave up his part in this kid. He's no longer associated with him. And that's why the Mefarshim say, the Chidah brings this, that he was able to drag his bones all across town. Comes out that if the almana kills her husband, Lichoira, she gave up that support. It's just similar to the father that gives up his part in his son. Lichoira. There's no longer, she loses the title of a regular almana that you're not allowed to cause sorrow. Or another raya, the Dvar Yeshua concludes la halacha. If a son kills his father, does he get the Yerusha? Haratzachta vegam yorashta. You want to kill and you want to get the spoils. Who said that to whom? Eliyahu Hanavi. To whom? To Achav. After he killed, he wanted the vineyard. Naval Israeli. Haratzachta vegam yorashta. You want to kill and you get a reward. The only problem with that pasuk is that the Mefarshim understand it differently. Look at the Radak over there in Melachim. I think it's Melachim Beis. I think Perek Beis Pasuk Yutet, but I'm not sure. The Radak says an unbelievable thing, and others as well. The Osameach. The Navi said to him, "You think you're going to kill Naval, and you're going to enjoy that vineyard? The truth is, you're entitled to it, but you're going to die. In the same place that this man died, Naval, the dogs will come and they will kill you and they will lick your blood." So technically speaking, you're right. You're going to get the Yerusha. And the Gemara argues why that is in Sanhedrin. Mem Vav maybe. Is it because he was a relative, or because the assets of a person who was executed by the king go to the king? Machlokes. But they might say you are entitled to it. But guess what? It's not going to happen to you here. So it's exactly the opposite. In Hebrew, it's called afuch al afuch. So the Dvar Yeshua says a son who kills his father is not entitled to the Yerusha, which means you lost that title called a regular orphan. She lost that title called a regular almana. So this pasuk won't apply. But the Osameach says that one who kills his father is entitled to the Yerusha. Very similar to this. The
din of Yatam, that's one parent or both parents?
It doesn't make a difference. he killed his father, he's supposed to get the Yerusha from his father.
No, but in terms of the title of the Yaakov.
L'chora, the father. Because he would run to his father for help in case something happened. Another raya. Ksubis Kuf Beis, we learn that Chazal instituted that the young orphan should not be placed with his brothers who would inherit him. The father died, like 6 kids. Each one gets 1/6. Don't keep the little kid with the older brothers. Why not? Why not? Because they may kill him. Because they want a bigger part of the pie. And the Gemara says there was a Maaseh, and some say over there in the Gemara there's a Girsa, it was Erev Rosh Hashanah. The first day that this little orphan came to live with his brothers, and they shechted him. Shechted him! So the Gemara says, dangerous business, don't do that. You see, if they wouldn't be entitled to the Yerusha, why would Chazal have to institute it? It must be that they're entitled to the Yerusha, which means when you're killing someone, you do get the Yerusha. Based on that, the almana who kills her husband is still within the commandment, don't afflict an almana.
I don't understand how the Jewish person would be suspected doing things like something like that, like with early laws of Yichud. 2 Jewish men would be allowed to be together in the room because we don't suspect that a sin will take place.
Really?
So,
Really? Who is the holiest man in the world? No, right now, today. Beis Hamikdash comes. Who's the holiest man on the planet? Kohen Gadol. No one like him, right? The Gemara in Yerushalmi, at the beginning of Maseches Yuma says, a Kohen Gadol must have a replacement, a substitute, in case something happens to him. On the holiest day of the year, the holiest man in the world is not allowed to be in the same room with his sub. Why? Says the Gemara, maybe Havu Katil Lei. Maybe he's going to kill him. What? You think you're going to come instead of me? Who are you talking to? Kohen Gadol! Which means we apparently are humans, and we have Bechira Choifshis. And Sukkah Nun Beis, the Gemara says, Kol HaGodol Michaveroi, the greater you are, Yitzro Godol Imeno. So the Yetzer also grows, and the Yetzer is gigantic. So, can't go with the he's a Yid, Yichud. If we try to prevent Kohen Gadol from going there, people who are not Kohenim Gedolim. So I asked the Shaila to Reb Chaim Zatzal, Rebbe, a woman who killed her husband, a son who killed his father, is he also included in this? Reb Chaim, ay, ay, ay. So witty, so sharp. He says to me, first bring him to Beis Din, let's give him skila, and then we'll talk. So I don't give up. I said, Rebbe, Beis Din is on vacation. They're not here. It's going to take some time until we give him skila. From the time they killed until we actually execute them, how about then? If I cause them tsar, am I transgressing this or not? So Reb Chaim says to me, you're not allowed to. I said, I know I'm not allowed to cause them tsar because anyways you're not allowed to cause tsar to anyone in Klal Yisrael. My question is it 2 for the price of 1? He says to me, Lo magia lehem, they're not entitled to this. Which means you're only transgressing, only one Isur Deoraisa. So, I'm sorry?
How do you go find a person?
Imet Hashem. I came to Reb Chaim and I asked him about a guy came with me, an older guy, who became an orphan when he was 8 years old. So he wanted to know until when does he carry this title? When can I stop saying I'm an orphan? You know, ultimately most people do lose their parents at that point when the parents get to 120. When does he stop being an orphan? So Reb Chaim said, Bar Mitzvah. So he continues to ask. He says, I heard from an Adam Gadol that orphans have special siyata dishmaya. Where is there a source to that? So Reb Chaim said it's a svara. There's no source to that. It makes sense. Like Kodesh Baruch Hu says, I'm going to be your father. Avi Yesoimim, he's the father of all orphans. The Mishnah Berurah in Siman Kuf Nun Vav Seif Daled, Seif Kotan Daled also speaks about this, and he says one has to be extremely careful not to afflict, not to cause any tsar to a widow. And the Mishnah Berurah says, until when are they called Yesoimim? Until they don't need anyone and they can do everything that they need to do on their own. He doesn't give a number, he doesn't give 13 as a number. He just says until they don't need to rely on others.
A widow still a widow when she gets remarried?
It's a good question. Some hold yeah. And some Gedolei Yisrael, after they lost their wives and they were offered to get married with an almana, they said no. I'm afraid of this transgression, that maybe if I'm going to say once, wrong word, I'm not just causing sorrow to my wife, I'm causing sorrow to an almana. It's risky business, it's dangerous. Said Giti Lamed Yamudal, if you can lose your life, you lose your wife. It's a machloikis.
The almana thorough even before you know that you already put it in.
No, it doesn't go into. It's like going to a minefield. You may explode. Why do I need it? There's a machloikis. There's a machloikis if she's still entitled to that title or not.
Once she marries her, she's not an almana.
Technically speaking, she is a married woman, but losing one's husband, not pashut, the devastation. So therefore, there's a machlokes about this. Don't know what the nafka min al-halacha will be, other than lichoira, you will be trespassing two for the price of one.
A widow who marries, her second husband dies, who should she be buried with? First husband died, then she got married, remarried, then her second husband died. Where should she say she wants to be buried?
I have a better question for you. What happens to Chias HaMesim? Who's she going to be with? First husband, second, third or fourth? Can she have a third or fourth? Can she have a third or fourth? Can she have a third? No. Why? What is she called? Isha Katlanis. Yevamu Samech Daled. However, there are exemptions, and sometimes we do allow it to get married.
I asked my mother-in-law, where does she want to be buried? She says, I want to be buried in Eretz Israel, next to near her grandson.
Lichoira, most would go with the first husband.
First husband was...
And that also, usually, according to the Zohar, is whom she's going to rise for Chias HaMesim with. Some say that it's with the person that she fixed more things with. Rectifications in the Olam HaSaydonim.
What if you kill her first husband?
Probably not. It's probably not a good idea to be buried next to him. The Shulchan Aruch does say that two people who hate each other should not be together. But they do say after they die, after 12 months after their demise, they can be brought together because they already did make peace up there. If she killed him, I don't think he's making peace with her anyone. It doesn't make a difference how long after. The riddle of the week.
And the gunner is also included, probably the same thing as an almana.
Sure. But we're saying worse. Even when she's not in the guna. He's living with her in the same house, but he upsets her and she can run to him for support. She as if like an almana. The riddle of the week, Aboisai. Maybe we'll have another one later. Can it be that one turns his head, just because he did this, he just lost money, $1,000. When I call you, do you turn your head? You walk in the street and I call your name, do you turn your head? You just lost $1,000. How can this be? Don't turn your head. Not everybody together can hear you when you're yelling at me, one by one. Yeah.
The only thing I can think is the story of, I don't know which was the rabbi, which for the Arab, and then he dared to see and he killed himself because he just looked when the bus was coming and he gave himself to himself.
$1,000, I'm not talking Musa, I'm talking Aloch Lemaise, Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch. Loites before Shulchan Aruch, a little. It's before Matan Torah, and she's also a Goya. Talking today. What's that? It's $1,000?
You're in a car.
I think it's $50 million.
Ah, okay. You're in a car and you look the wrong way and you smack.
And the damage was only $1,000. Choshen Mishpatim Mem Te Seif Dalet. Reuven says to Shimon, you owe me $1,000. Can be any number. And he takes out a shtar. You signed your name. You owe me $1,000. They go to Beis Din. And Shimon says, I'm not Shimon. My name is Yerachmiel. If there are no witnesses to prove that this man is actually Shimon, and he's not Yerachmiel as he claims, you can't take out money from his pocket. But if he walks in the streets and somebody calls him Shimon, whoop, you just lost $1,000. Shulchan Aruch meforesh asar halacha in Shulchan Aruch. Be careful. If you signed anything, don't turn your head. Va'avadetem es Hashem Elokeichem, Chazal say, Ezo hi avoda shebalev, zu tefillah. That refers to tefillah, and this, therefore, gives us a chance to speak a little about davening. There's a guy that shortly after his wedding stopped davening. Mamish. And his wife was so upset, she didn't know what's going on. So, day after day, he doesn't go to shul anymore. He used to be such a masmid in yeshiva, and it's tefillah 25 minutes, 18. And now? So his friends go over to him and say, what's going on? How come you stopped davening? He said, in my Sheva Brachos, all the darshanim got up and they spoke and they said, wow, you must know how to daven. You daven so well. Look what you got! Referring to my wife. So I figured if this is what you get for davening well, Moishel Tevis, I don't need this type of favors. Thank you very much. But there really was a kala who came to Beis Din. And she says to the Dayanim, don't know what happened to my husband. He stopped going to shul. Used to go to shul all the time. Shortly after the wedding, he stopped going to shul. So the Dayan calls this husband and he says, well, what happened? How come you stopped going to shul? He says, listen, during my Sheva Brachos, all the Darshanim got up and they said, you are now building a dwelling place for the divine. You are building a Beis HaMikdash. I want to daven in a holy place like Beis HaMikdash, so I daven at home. So Dayan says to him, tell me, are you planning to shech some behemoths there today as well? Yes, it's true. A house, if the husband and wife do everything right, the Shechina dwells there in their house. But it's like a Beis HaMikdash, and we have shuls who are referred to by Chazal as mini Batei Mikdash. So one has to go daven in a shul. There was a father once who came to the...
You don't shech the behemoth in... I didn't see here in Meldoel that you shech the behemoth also.
But Chazal do call this a mini Beis Mikdash.
Also your house with the...
Chazal say, Keilu, like.
What goes on in the backyard.
There was a father who came to the Ger Rebbe with his 2-year-old, and he said, Rebbe, I want you to give a bracha to my son. He should remain as kadosh as he is now. So Rebbe said, listen, your son looks very cute, and I'm sure he's very special, but why are you calling him kadosh? He says, Rebbe, when I let him play with Legos, you know what he does? Immediately, every single time I do this, he builds tefillin. It's unbelievable. So he must be very holy. He's very kadosh, and therefore give him a bracha that he will remain holy. And the Rebbe says to him, I'm sure your son is very, very special, but I'm not so sure about you. You know why he's building tefillin? A 2-year-old doesn't know what tefillin looks like because his father is in the shul putting on tefillin. You probably daven at home, so he keeps seeing your tefillin. That's why he's building a tefillin. So I know about your son. He's very special, but I'm not so sure about you. There was a Rav here in Israel, used to go to the prison to give shiurim and to encourage the inmates. He davened with them. So once he davens with them shachris, and he sees that right after Shmoneh Esrei, some guy's already taking off the tefillin. He says to what's the rush? If anyone is not in a rush, it's you guys. How long are you here for? He says, 5 years. But you? 15 years. Well, what's the rush? Why are you taking off the tefillin? He says, Rebbe, you're surprised. Don't you know how important it is to keep Jewish tradition? Minag avoseinu beyadeinu. My father used to take it off right after Shmoneh Esrei. My grandfather used to take it off right after Shmoneh Esrei. You don't change minhagim, right? The Rishonim already say, minhag ra, minhag. The letters minhag is the same letters as Gehenom. If it's a bad minhag, it's a mitzvah to change. So yes, it's allowed and permitted to go to the shul, to daven in the shul, and to keep the tefillin until the end of davening. So while we're on topic of davening, there is a father who stayed home. He has a son who's 15 years old and a baby, a 2-year-old. In their town, there's only one minyan for mincha, and it's 5 minutes before Shkia. Only one can go to daven. Whom should go to daven? Should the father send his son and say, listen, it's my obligation to stay with the kid, with the baby. I'll stay and I'll watch him. Or you also have to educate you in chinuch to daven in a minyan, so go to daven. Or maybe the father should say to the son, you know what? You stay. When you're staying here, you're doing kibbud. You're also doing gemilus chesed. And when you're engaged in the mitzvah, you're patur from other mitzvahs. So I think I'm going to go. Who should go? It's a very nogea lemaisa shara lichoya. The dad. And that is why? That's what I thought. I wrote about it. I went to Reb Neven Tzal Shlita, Reb Chaim Grunblatt Zatzal, and they both agreed with me. I went to Reb Nissim Karelitz, he didn't agree with me. He said, in this case, you have two choices. Whatever you pick is right. So it's not that we're wrong, but there's another choice here. In case the kid is not bar mitzvah, in other words, there's still a baby here, but there's a kid who is 10, 11, 12, who can be a babysitter but can also go daven, in that case, lichoira, clear that the father should go because his obligation to daven in a minyan is higher than the obligation of the kid. But in case, according to Reb Nissim, if in the first case, the father can choose whatever he wants, according to the other opinions, lichoira, it should be the father. Another halacha regarding tefillah, which I think, for some reason, is an unknown halacha, Shulchan Aruch mefoirash in the Ramah. In Shulchan Aruch or Chaim Siman Kuf Chav Gimel Seif Beis, we learn that when one finishes Shmoneh Esrei, he is not allowed to turn around. You see it on a regular basis in shul. You finish Shmoneh Esrei, and there's still time until the chazan starts. So people do the fan action, and they start going from right to, oh, this guy came today. Oh, I didn't see him in a long time. And then, oh, very nice. He also came. This guy, oh, look what he's wearing. One is not allowed to turn around after he finishes his Shmoneh Esrei until the chazan finishes his Shmoneh Esrei. And the reasons brought are amazing. What's that? No, until the chazan finishes his silent prayer and he's going to start the chazan's petition. But why? The Mishnah Berurah there brings unbelievable two reasons from the Rishonim. He brings already from the Taz, he brings from the Levush. Unbelievable. First reason, and this is so practical. When you turn around and you look at someone, he feels it. Even though his eyes are in the siddur, he feels somebody's looking at me. And that's going to ruin his kavanah. Very practical. The other reason is unbelievable. If you're turning around, says the Mishnah Berurah, you know what people are going to be saying about you? How is it possible? I'm only in Moedim. This guy's already finished. I think you skipped a few words. And you're not allowed to cause people to suspect you. According to this first reason, lichoira, this should apply to a person who's not davening in shul. He's just sitting and learning here. He's sitting and learning. They're still davening. The chazan is still davening. He won't be allowed to turn around because you're wrecking somebody else's kavanah. You feel somebody's eyes are on you. You feel it. I asked him, Chaim Kanievsky, he agreed with me. So I don't know why. It's a halacha that doesn't get too much attention. It's a Shulchan Aruch. It's, I think in all the versions it appears there. They didn't take it out. Now,
before they take the step to make sure the guy is finished behind
that you're allowed to, just to make sure you're allowed to take the steps back. Otherwise you can't take the steps. You took the steps, stay there, standing, waiting for the chazan, not sitting, and also not learning. It's not time for learning now. Unless Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, when you know there's another 40 minutes to go before they start the chazan petition, you can learn. Otherwise, you can say Tehillim. Anything that's connected to tefillah, one can say at that time. But that's not time for learning, or not even talking for talking. We're not talking about that. That's clear.
You see many times, even learning while waiting for the chazan. But I'm not saying about us, but leaders of Kehillah.
There is a saying, which I think is very true. No one ever became a lamdan from learning in tefillah, and no one ever became rich from leaving shul 5 minutes early. So Kodesh Baruch Hu gives the money, and even if you'll stay till the end of davening, Kodesh Baruch Hu knows where to find you. And if you really want to become a lamdan, as Chazal say in the Gemara Baruch Hu, Zman tefillah lechud, Zman limud lechud. There are two parallel lines that don't meet. You come here to daven, you have to daven to Kodesh Baruch Hu. Not time for learning.
What if your mind, you know, like during Chazar to Shah, so your mind, sometimes you lose track of davening, and your mind goes other places. So better to say you can't let it, and you learn so that you don't, your mind doesn't go off to say business or something.
Then you have a new problem. Then you have a new problem. Everybody around you are going to be looking at the Talmid Chochem who is doing the wrong thing and learning from the Talmid Chochem to do the wrong thing. So you're teaching others something which you're not allowed to do. So you have to somehow remove those thoughts from your head and open up the siddur. And a thing to assist you will be to put the finger and follow the chazan word for word, and you'll see miracles. You'll be able to have kavana and to follow every single word. And if it doesn't work the first time, try it again. If it doesn't work the second time, by the 100th time I promise you it'll work. Try. Reb Shimon Schwab unbelievable observation. In Hilchos Netilas Yadayim, Shulchan Aruch Chaim Kuf Samech Vav, the language of the Mechaber is Tov lehizaher. It's good to be careful not to speak after you say the bracha Netilas Yadayim. Until you say a moitzi and you eat the bread, great. The Mishnah Berurah explains why that is. Because the bracha for Netilas Yadayim is an independent mitzvah. You did it already. But we're afraid you're going to have hesech hadas until the time you come to eat. And therefore we don't want you to speak. But lemaise, if you did speak, and you didn't have hesech hadas, you're fine. You don't have to wash your hands again. That's one Shulchan Aruch. There's another Shulchan Aruch. Orach Chaim Siman Kuf Chaf Daled. Seif Zayin. The Mechaber says about a person who speaks during Chazal HaShatz. Harsh language. Ve'im sach hu choyte. And if he spoke, he is a sinner. Ve'gadol avoino miniso. And his sin is too great to bear. Ve'goyarim bo. And we yell at him and embarrass him publicly. Said Reb Shimon Schwab, this is a mamish unbelievable thing. Did you ever see in your life someone after Netilas Yadayim speaking? Chas v'shalom! Chas v'shalom! But when it says he's a sinner and his sin is too great to bear and we yell at him, that's probably not what it means. You have to look at the Mefarshim. That's probably not what it means. When it says Tov lihizaher, it's good to be careful not to speak. That means Yehavik ve'al yavo. You'd rather die and not do it. I can't speak. But when it says Chas v'shalom, oh, that's probably not what it means.
Is there any method for the Gabbai Shul? I've been in the Shul a few times. When the Gabbai decides he wants to give you a lay on Shabbos, he'll come up to you during Chazal Shabbos. And he asks you your name.
Gabbai is allowed. That's letzorich.
Are you allowed to answer him?
Yeah, that's letzorich. He's afraid if you're going to do it at the beginning of davening, he doesn't have such a good memory, as he's going to forget by the time. Now, so Chazal Shabbos is pretty close to the time he's going to call you. For him, it works best. Letzorich, that will be permitted. But the $1 million question is, davening. Will my prayer be heard? Lemaisa, I know myself. From the one of the Lamed Vav Tzadikim, not even from the Mem Zayin Tzadikim, not even from the... I know myself. Will my prayer be heard? The answer is an unbelievable Ramban in our Pasha. The Pasuk says, Veshomati, I will hear when you afflict the person who doesn't have and you take away his garment. Why will I listen? Ki chanun ani. Because I am merciful. What is chanun? What is this word? Says the Ramban. Choinen umekabel tchinas kol adam. I am merciful and I listen and I accept the prayer of any person, af al pi she'eino hagun, even though he is not worthy. Chanun comes from migzeiras chinam. Chanun comes free of charge. Doesn't make a difference who you are. You open your mouth, you talk to Ribono Shel Olam, he listens. V'ha'inyan, what is this talking about? Shelo tachshov, don't start thinking, lo echbol salmas hatzadik. I lent money to a person. He's a tzaddik. So every day I'm going to come back and give him what that garment, because otherwise he doesn't have what to wear. But if it's not such a tzaddik, you know what? I'm not going to give him back his garment. Who cares? So he's going to cry to Kodesh Baruch Hu. Kodesh Baruch Hu doesn't listen. Says the Kodesh Baruch Hu, don't think like that. Because the Kodesh Baruch Hu will listen to his prayer. That's why he said, Ki chanun ani. Because I am merciful. V'shomea tza'akas kol mischanen li. I listen to the prayer, the yells of anyone. Doesn't make a difference who the person is, as long as he opens his mouth and wants to have a connection with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. In this Parashat, Klal Yisrael are praised that they said, Naaseh v'nishma. So Naaseh v'nishma may be in a new light. The Torah has mitzvahs bin Adam lamakoy, between Naaseh and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and there's also mitzvahs bin Adam lachavero. So I understand what is Naaseh v'nishma bin Adam lamakoy. What is Naaseh v'nishma between man and his fellow? How does that work? So it could be Klal Yisrael encamped there last week. Vayichan sham Yisrael keneged ahar, and Rashi says, famous Chazal, ke'ish echad belev echad. Their main thing was achdus, and that's why they were able to receive the Torah. So if it's all about achdus, and that's when they said Naaseh v'nishma, that means Naaseh, to be active, to extend your hand. How can I help? What can I do to help you? V'nishma, It actually means to listen. Listen when your friend is talking. Even in a heated argument, you have to listen. You have to allow the person to say what he wants to say and to listen. Sometimes all the other person needs is to vent. He just needs to say something and you need to be there just at the other end, just listening. And that's all that's needed. That's the naaseh sometimes, and that's sometimes the nishma. And Chazal in fact says, Da'aga belev ish, there's a pasuk. And the pasuk says, Da'aga belev ish, Mishlei, Moshe Shlomo Melech says, if you have worry in your heart, what should you do? The pasuk says, Yashchena. Chazal say, don't read it Yashchena, rather, Yasichena. Say it to others. Just having a companion, just being able to share the load, to say it to someone else, that's a nishma. And maybe don't read it nishma. There's no dots in the Torah. Nashmiya, meaning we will say positive words, encouraging words, compliments to others. That's how you create the achdus that comes from Naaseh v'Nishma. And maybe Naaseh v'Nishma between the mitzvahs ben Adam lamakoim is Naaseh, obviously those mitzvahs that demand our actions. But Nishma is all those mitzvahs which are dependent on the ear. What mitzvahs are dependent on the ear? Kiyaseh Megillah, Kol Shoifar. And we will make sure, Chalila, not to hear the wrong things. Sheker, Leitzanus, Loshon Hara, Rechilus, and Nashmiya, which means we will say Divrei Torah to others to allow them to hear only the right things. We end with another riddle of the week, a tough one. Maybe not. 4 answers, 4 possible points, be careful. Rabbi Isai, can it be? The Torah says, Lo tevashel di b'chalev imoy. Don't eat meat and milk together, right? Can it be that there is a person who can only eat parv? He's not allowed to have meat, not allowed to have dairy, not for medical reasons, not pikuach nefesh. He didn't take any vows on himself, nor nadarim. And yet, he is only allowed to have parv. 4 possible answers. Ashkenazi, at the end of the day, the evening before Rosh Chodesh Menachem Av, once the 9 days kick in, he's not allowed to have meat. He ate meat 5 minutes before the day starts, before Rosh Chodesh kicks in. So now for the next 5 hours, 55 minutes, he won't be able to have dairy because he's fleishik. He won't be able to have meat because it's 9 days. And his Sephardi counterpart, Motzi Shabbos Chazon, the week of. He can't have any meat, so he eats on Shalishudis. He eats meat. Motzi Shabbos comes in, he can't have any meat. 9 days for him, the week of. And he can't have any dairy yet because he's still fleishik. Good. You got 1 out of 4. You got 2 points. If you don't know the rest, you're going to take off your points. Or you can gain more by having 3 more answers. Can it be 3 different answers? Now, boy, say.
The same with Avelus?
Not Avelus, Aninus. A person's relative died, but he ate meat 2 minutes before that, and then he told him, oh, you know, your father died. So now he's an oinen. Until burial, when he's called an oinen, he's not allowed to have meat. So he can't have meat now because he's an oinen. He can't have dairy because he's still fleishik from what he ate 5 minutes ago. 6 hours, he can only eat parv. Good, you got 2 out of 4. 2 more. Unknown halacha. We're asking it in a form of riddle to be able to say halacha, which again, I think for some reason is an underrated, it's not unknown. Mishnah Bura in Orachaim Taf Kuf Samech Aleph Seif Gatan Dalet says, a person who comes to Yerushalayim for the very first time in his life sees the Makom HaMikdash and its destruction, is not allowed to have meat or wine. I'm not going to ask you show of hands how many people know this halacha. I don't know why people don't know this. People do come here for the first time and they take pictures. Look, I'm at the Kaisel, supposed to be crying the whole day. So if 5 minutes before on the plane he had a beautiful fleishik meal, and then they take him to the Kaisel, first time in his life, he's not allowed to have now for the rest of the day meat, and for the next 6 hours he can, 5.5, whatever time is that he's from the time that he ate fleishes, he can't have milk. The final answer, somebody asked me, he said, I had real yellow cheese that requires 6 hours separation from it, and then accidentally 2 hours later I totally forgot about it because I normally don't eat it, and I had a nice piece of steak. Fine. Now what does that do now? I made a mistake, fine, good. And then once you already ate meat, do you have permission to go ahead and eat more meat? Chas v'sholom. The Gemara says the language is, one who ate garlic and he's now doesn't have such a pleasant odor, should he continue to eat more and more garlic? Misha achal shum yeshuv yoichal shum? No, you're not allowed to. Mimele, it comes out. If he ate this type of cheese and then he ate meat, now for the next 6 hours he can have milk because he just ate meat. He also is still in the 4 hours that from the eating the cheese, and therefore he won't be able to have the meat. And it's the same thing if he ate meat and 2 hours accidentally later he ate a piece of really yellow cheese that requires 6 hours, very hard to come by these days. The regular yellow cheese that they sell in the stores does not require so long, but there are some cheese like that in the world. Those that they process for a year. Those that require full 6 hours. Parmesan, real Parmesan. So in that case again, if he ate meat and accidentally ate milk 2 hours later, that not milk, he ate this Parmesan cheese, so then for the next 4 hours he still can't eat meat, and he still can't eat, 6 hours he can't eat meat because he ate Parmesan cheese, and he still 4 hours can't eat dairy because before he ate meat.
There could be an exception to that.
Yeah?
Suppose a person is about to sugar and he's got no minhag in himself, and he's just decided, after eating that, he decided to take on a Rav, and his rabbi happens to come from Holland, so he adopts all the minhagim of his rabbi.
First of all, that would be correct.
Yeah.
And second of all, you should ask, not about tshuva. This, you should ask, and this is a real shara l'maaseh, halacha l'maaseh, again. On the way to the Beis Din, he has meat and milk together. We can't charge him with anything, he's still a goy. What is he allowed to eat now? Is it a mitzius and bichlal, a ger that just had a nice steak on the way to Beis Din, and now he converted? Is he a new mitzius? What do we call a ger? Ger shenis gayer, kikatan shenol is a new entity. He can do whatever he wants. Or maybe we'll say it's a mitzius. You still have pieces of meat in your mouth. It's a shel halacha, is a machlokes.
Last cheeseburger.
Acheinu kol beis Yisrael nesunim b'tzavor v'shivya. העובדים בין בים ובין ביבשה ובין מתחת ליבשה נתנוס המקום ירחם עליהם יוצאים מצר הלבח המאפיל על העיר ומשובד לגולה אשתו ועגולו בזמן קורי ונוימר פומי